We are going to talk today about the ego payoff behind gossip because, of course, there's a payoff. We wouldn't do it if there wasn't a payoff. We're going to talk about it psychologically, energetically, spiritually, and we're going to talk about what shifts when we finally surrender that pattern and instead turn the mirror back on ourselves because it really is about us. It's about something inside of us. Welcome back, friends, to the Daily Surrender, a podcast where we explore what it really means to let go and live in alignment with God's design. Today, I want to talk about something that gets all of us, something really sneaky that the ego loves to feed on, and that's gossip. It's that urge inside of us to talk about someone else, to run to someone else and just tell them what this person said or did, or let's just deconstruct it together. It could feel really small and oftentimes harmless. And I've experienced like it feels kind of bonding, right? But what if gossip is actually one of the most subtle ways that the darkness keeps us disconnected from our true selves, disconnected from the divine and from peace, the peace that we're all searching for? I am not having this conversation with you here today because I have nailed it. I never ever catch myself gossiping. No, not at all. I actually caught myself gossiping in a way that I was really justifying it. And it convicted me and it has had me thinking more and more about the insidious little ways that I justify. Years ago, when I worked with my mentor, Molly, that was something that right away she started to call me higher on. Just the waste of energy and time that I spent essentially gossiping with other people. I justified it. I wouldn't call it gossip. So I've been consciously stepping away from it. But again, it's sneaky. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the sneaky ways that it tempts us to just vent. I'm just venting. I just need to process. And we justify it. But I've really started to think a lot lately, and perhaps you've picked up on this in some of our most recent podcast conversations about how every single word carries a frequency. And the words that come out of our mouth carry frequency as well as the thoughts in our head. And gossip, even the innocent gossip, feeds the wrong frequency. When you really start to pay attention, you can feel it. And that's what's been happening to me is I can feel the frequency of my words. And sometimes they feel really heavy and that doesn't feel good. That's not the direction I want to go in. So today we're going to get really real about why we do it. That takes some honesty, right? Like let's get humble. We're going to talk about it psychologically, energetically, spiritually, and we're going to talk about what shifts when we finally surrender that pattern and instead turn the mirror back on ourselves because it really is about us. It's about something inside of us. The other day, I was gossiping. I didn't think it was that. I was justifying it as something else. And I was just sharing something with my husband about someone and what they were doing. And it was really annoying me. And my husband looked at me and he said, Jen, my question for you is, why do you care? Why are you getting yourself in a tizzy over this? Everyone can make their own choices. What difference does it make to you? That was really convicting for me. And again, that's had me having this conversation that I'm having here with you today in my head and with God over the past few days. I really started thinking about the scripture that talks about looking at the speck in our brother's eye, like pointing it out and paying absolutely no attention to the plank in our own eye. Because it really, again, is about ourselves. It's about holding that mirror back up and taking a look at what's in us that we're deflecting by gossiping. So we are going to talk today about the ego payoff behind gossip because of course there's a payoff. We wouldn't do it if there wasn't a payoff. We're going to talk about the energetic toll that it takes on us. And we're going to talk about the liberation that happens when we choose to stop feeding the darkness and instead we feed the light. Before we dive in to the whole conversation on gossip, if you are ready to slow down and you're ready to find calm in your body and reconnect with the peace that only the divine can give to you, I have created something really awesome for you. It's a brand new free gift just for you, my loyal listeners, as a thank you. It's called the Calm and Receive Micro Retreat. It's a short but really powerful immersion designed to help you regulate your nervous system, release control, and open yourself back up to divine flow. You can sign up for it for free in the link in the show notes here, and you will have access to that free retreat. All right, let's get back to talking about surrendering gossip and reclaiming your light, which will bring you more calm and peace as well. All right, so first, let's dive into the psychology of gossip, because of course there's psychology to it. There's a reason why it feels so good. It feels really good biochemically and psychologically. When we gossip, our brain is releasing dopamine and oxytocin, both really good, feel good neurotransmitters. And when those are released, we feel really connected. We feel like in the know, right? It's giving that ego a false sense of superiority and belonging. And who doesn't want to belong? Like we want to belong, right? So the ego is really sneaky in the ways that it gets our needs met. So gossip is a way, not a healthy way, but it's a way that the ego can get that dopamine boost, get that oxytocin flowing, and really feel like we're special. We belong, like we're in the know. It deflects the attention from our own deeper inner work by focusing outwardly on other people's perceived flaws, the things that they're doing, the things that we then feel so superior to. Because if we can talk about, again, the speck in our neighbor's eye, it deflects us from looking at the plank in our own eye. And it feels like momentarily really good. Afterwards, it kind of feels crappy, especially when you become more and more aware of it. But again, there's reasons why we do it and we do it and we justify it. And there are also reasons why it feels good. So, gossiping, when we're really honest about what it is and where it's rooted, we can see that the roots of gossip are rooted in insecurity. They're rooted in comparison and jealousy and our unhealed wounds, like the parts of us that we don't want to look at, or maybe we feel shame over, or maybe we are walking around with these wounds, but we're like, but they're not as bad as theirs. Let me go point out theirs. So again, it's like deflection too. Gossip can often become a coping mechanism for us feeling really powerless. So when we're feeling powerless, we buy into the illusion of control by talking about other people, by talking about their flaws, by talking about what they're doing wrong, by talking about anything to do with other people, other than building them up, of course. Like building people up is a very different conversation. But when we are honest again and we take a look at why we do it, it really, really is to deflect from something inside of us and to make us feel better, even if it's for a nanosecond. In Matthew 7:3, that's the scripture that talks about the speck in your neighbor's eye. It says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" Why do we do that? Right? So Jesus was teaching in his teachings that doing that is never going to lead us down a better path. It's not going to illuminate light. It's going to feed into the darkness. It's again feeding into the comparison, the jealousy, the insecurity inside of us. And that doesn't move us forward and up. Gossiping really is a way of keeping our eyes on someone else's, again, speck so that we don't have to confront our own plank. Some people get really addicted to it because it keeps them from ever having to look at themselves. They're like kicking the can down the road by spending their days talking about other people instead of ever being honest about themselves. So, spiritually and energetically, gossip is feeding darkness. It's not feeding light. There's really no good that comes out of it. Every single word, as I mentioned in our introduction, carries a frequency. And gossip is going to lower the vibration, both for the person doing it. So if it's coming out of your mouth, it's lowering your vibration. And it's going to lower the vibration for the person that's receiving it. Even if they're not physically in front of you, you're contributing to that lower vibration for them too. And that's not loving. It's not loving for ourselves, and it's not loving for others, and it's not loving to God. It's leaking this life force energy out of ourselves. And in doing that, it's creating energetic cords of judgment. And it's binding us to the very person or the very situation that we're judging. Can you feel that? Like we're creating these energetic cords that are really heavy. They're like chains. And we're draining our own life force. Why do we want to do that? One of the top complaints that I get from clients that come here is that they're fatigued. They're really tired. And one of the things that I help my clients do is look for areas of energetic leaks. And we've covered on other podcast episodes some of the more common ones like people pleasing, thinking that we have to be on all the time, perfectionism. But gossip isn't a big energetic leak. I want you to pay attention to the next time that you're talking about someone else, even if it feels really justified. I just want you to catch it and pause and feel the loss of energy from you. Like do an energetic check in. The more you do it, the more you're going to feel it. For me, I am all about, especially in midlife, like as so many things have shifted in my physiology, I am all about looking for areas where I can reclaim my energy, boost my energy, not leak it out. I came into midlife like I felt like it was like this, I just like crashed into midlife. And there was this midlife almost crash in me that started to occur in my mid to early 40s. I'm 50 now, where I was so exhausted and I was dragging with me all of these habits, whether they were habits in my thinking or habits in my behavior. And gossip was one of them. Again, I mentioned earlier that my mentor, Molly, that I worked with for years when I hired her in midlife, in my dark night of the soul, that she was really adamant about me stopping. And man, did I justify it. Like I really did justify it. Like I don't think I was the person that was like the backstabbing gossiper all the time. I just spent a lot of time even thinking about other people and what they were doing. And all of it was deflection from taking a look at my own crap. And it also was me distracting myself from actually doing the work, distracting myself from moving forward, justifying how I was spending my time because it was just, I had to talk about what so and so was doing or pontificate on this. There's a lot of ways that our ego can justify it. So there's a strong connection between gossip and spiritual disconnection too. So gossip is anti-love. There's nothing loving about gossiping. We might try and justify it as being loving, but it's not loving. It is the opposite of God's frequency. So God's frequency, which is perfect unconditional love, is the highest vibrating emotion. So if we're going to do something that is anti-love, it's very low frequency. When we speak against others, what we're doing is we're literally blocking the flow of light through our own being. Think about that. When we engage in gossip, we're sowing seeds in the soil of the darkness. And then we're wondering why the fruit in our lives tastes really bitter and rotten. We're planting those seeds, my friends. We're planting those seeds. You know that I am all about optimizing health and wellness. I spent 15 years in a career. I have spent 15 years in a career helping other people optimize their health. I've had people come to me with all different kinds of physical conditions that weren't shifting with the things that they were doing in their life. And we could do the gut work and improve their diet and get them moving and take some supplements. And yet things weren't really moving as much as they desired. They would get better, but they weren't where they wanted to be. And again, going back to one of the number one complaints from the majority of my clients is fatigue, just tired, feeling drained, burnt out, tapped out. This is where we need to fine tune where we are leaking out energy, where we're blocking life force inside of ourselves. So the physical ramifications of gossip are really real. So gossip and judgment and resentment, they all kind of go hand in hand because when we're gossiping, we're really fueling negative, right? Those are energetically linked to the throat chakra. And what's the throat chakra governing? Our voice. And what organ is associated with that? Our thyroid. So, our thyroid essentially is regulating our energy and our metabolism. So, we're affecting our throat chakra. We're affecting our thyroid health. And so if we end up with a hypothyroid dynamic, and there's multiple reasons, multiple factors that play into that, but this is one of them, then we're going to feel sluggish. Our bodily functions are going to end up being sluggish. So let's not do that, right? Let's instead use our voice for truth, for authenticity, for kindness, for healthy communication, not unhealthy communication. That's going to hurt, again, this really important organ in our body. Chronic gossiping or even just suppressing our truth, which both are just two sides of the same coin, they can manifest as thyroid imbalances. They can manifest as sore throat, as jaw tension, as digestive disturbances. I'm going to encourage you, if you're listening to this, to again catch yourself the next time that you gossip, which probably will be today or tomorrow. We all do it, right? I'm having the conversation with you again, not in the vein that I'm so perfect and I never do this and we're never ever going to do it again after we here have this conversation. But awareness is the first step to change. So when we become aware, we then have the opportunity to change it, to shift it. We get to move into the next continuum of the next step on the continuum of change, which is action. So, well, we'll contemplate it and then take action. So that's why I'm having the conversation with you. So if you're physically feeling any of those symptoms, ask yourself, what was the frequency of the conversation you were having? Was it really elevated or was it a low frequency? Because gossip in and of itself is originating in fear and separation. So if we're coming from fear or separation, we're not coming from the divine mind of God. So we know off the bat, we're outside of faith. And if we're outside of faith, we're giving other things power. That's really heavy. That's really depleting and really dysregulating to the nervous system. That's keeping our body in that subtle fight or flight, draining our vitality. Yeah. Can you feel it? This is why I'm having this conversation. I could talk to you about eating all the best foods for your energy and your metabolism and making sure that you're hydrating really well. And those things are all really, really important. But these are those subtle little things that when we don't address them, they're going to work against you. You can be doing all of the, again, quote unquote, right things, but it's like you're bailing water out of a leaky boat. So we're coming in and we're filling in those holes by bringing awareness to where there might even be holes. So, how do you shift the pattern from gossip to growth? How do you do it? First, you want to notice gossip rising up inside of you. You want to notice when you get that little thrill before sharing something. Again, I'm not talking about things that build other people up. That's very different when you want to share someone's really great news. But you want to notice that tone, that even that little thrill that you get when you're like, oh, can you believe that she just did? Catch your tone right there. You want to notice justifying, like righteousness that you feel when you're justifying that, oh, I'm just processing. I'm just going to get it up and out. I just need to process. I'm saying that right now to you, and even that is convicting me because I've done that so many times. We're like, it's not actually gossip. Just hold space for me while I process. So instead of judging yourself, we want to notice what we're noticing. And without judgment, we want to pause and ask ourselves, what is this really, really about? Why does this person's behavior bother me so much? Where do I feel unseen? Maybe I'm feeling unheard. Maybe I'm feeling really insecure and I need to bring it up. Maybe I need to bring it up with the person that I'm tempted to gossip about. That can be a really, really powerful invitation when we pause, like stop instead of getting that quick dopamine hit that gives us a little thrill. Maybe we have an area of communication that needs improvement with this other person. So catch the trigger inside of yourself and you want to use it as your own mirror. Like catch it and then look in it. It's really awesome. I know this sounds like, what? This is really uncomfortable, Jen. That's going to take a lot of humility. Yeah, it's going to take humility. But I promise you, the more that we catch inside of ourselves, the more opportunity we have for growth, the more opportunity we have for healing, for change, for repletion of energy, not depletion of energy, right? There's a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt that I've always loved. And Molly actually would send this quote to me, especially in the early days when she was really trying to help me become more and more aware of the insidious ways that I was gossiping, that I was justifying and not thinking was gossip. And it's great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people. I love that quote so much. I have it saved on my phone and I have it on a post-it note in my office on purpose because it helps me to really catch. Am I a small-minded person? I don't want to be a small-minded person. I want to be a great-minded person. I want to be a great-minded person that discusses ideas. And actually, even more than that, a great-minded person that just does. Like that isn't actually talking about all the things. So ask yourself, which mind are you feeding? Like, are you feeding the great idea mind? Are you feeding the event mind? Or are you feeding the people? We were just talking about people. So, some alternatives when we catch ourselves really being tempted to gossip, and again, that like purposeful pause, so powerful, guys. Take it to God in prayer, or even just journaling, talking about it in a journal. I have recently revisited my journaling. I used to be a huge journaler and, we all ebb and flow in things. And I think I was in an ebb with journaling. And I started picking it back up and writing down what I wanted to talk about. I'm a Gemini. So any of you guys who are Geminis who are listening, you know that the Gemini thing is that we verbally process and we talk a lot. Sometimes I can justify that too much. And I was catching myself in my talking, weaving in like gossip. I was justifying and I was calling it processing. And I was like, what if instead I journaled it? And then as I journal, what I need to bring to God in prayer becomes really, really obvious to me. So instead of gossiping, you could also talk about ideas. You can talk about your dreams. You can talk about your visions, talk about healing, celebrate it, talk truth, highlight beauty in your life, raise the collective frequency with your conversations. Every conversation you have, raise the frequency. Speak life over other people, not death, not negativity. And when you're tempted to gossip, instead pause and send that person light. Like send them light. You can visualize light going out to that person. Wrap them in it. Wrap them in the light and the love. And then you could even tie some words there or pray for them. And if you're hanging out with other people and they're gossiping, and it doesn't feel good to you, feel free to step away. Like, don't participate in it. Be really careful not to join in just because other people are doing that. And if you've got people in your life who insist on doing it all the time and all they want to do is talk about other people, they might be people that you want to reevaluate having in your life. I've had to do that. I've had relationships that have expired, so to speak, and I've stepped away from because they were not building up. They were not building me up. They were actually pulling me down. The frequency of the relationship was so low that it felt like a ball and chain on me. And I was also really tempted to participate. So I've had to step away from relationships or at least put distance between myself and other people. People are on their own path. We can't make anybody else do something. That conviction has to come from within them, just like it has to come from within you to change. So as you're changing and you're growing and you're evolving, and maybe you really are very, very convicted to have the highest frequency you can, and you're taking a look at relationships in your life that are really low vibrating relationships, they might be calling for boundaries. They might be expiring. They might not be relationships that can completely expire, but you can put up boundaries. So there's a lot of freedom, as I said at the beginning of this episode, in the surrendering of this habit. And yes, it's a habit. When we surrender gossip, what we're doing is we're reclaiming our energy. We're reclaiming peace and we're reclaiming presence. When we let it go, that creates more space for us to be present to the good, present to what is good and right in front of us in this moment, not taking us out of the moment by senseless talk about other people. It frees us from that heavy karma of judgment. Whew, my goodness. We are not to be the judgers of anybody else. Always go back to self, because when we are judging other people, it is because there's something in us that we're deflecting and we're actually judging it within ourselves. So take a look at what that is. Like, what is that? When we surrender the gossip, it's strengthening, again, the throat center. And that's helping us speak from love, to speak truth in love, rather than just opinions and ego. It deepens our intimacy with God because we're no longer feeding our ego with validation from other people. See, gossip also is a really, really cheap way for us to get that external validation. We get a hit from it. It's like, ooh, together, like I pointed out to someone else that this person is like doing something really sucky, and that person agreed. And then all of a sudden I'm validated. So I get a dopamine hit and the hit of validation. That is cheap, my friends. That's like the like fast food, junk food, like really, really crappy for overall well-being. And it's not going to last. It's not going to last. And that's why people get so addicted to this too. So in my life, as I've shared with you, this is not something that I've completely mastered, but it's definitely an area where I just continue to lean in and lean in and lean in and lean in. And I can tell you that all of my relationships, all of them have improved as I have stopped talking about other people. The more that I have stepped away from talking about other people or engaging in conversation about other people that isn't life building, again, it's not building them up, I have found more peace in my whole being. I have felt more peace in my body. I have felt calmer. I'm not walking around with as much tension. I have greater clarity. I have more joy. I see more good. I really do. I see more good in my everyday than I did when I was participating in gossip as frequently as I was. My family, I love my family so much. I'm the oldest of four, and we had a dynamic that was really toxic. And I made a very concerted effort to stop participating in it. When I became very convicted, and again, Molly helped me with this 5, 6 years ago when I first met her, I became really convicted because I was an active participant in the gossip that was constantly going on in my family. So I talked to my dad and we would talk about one of my sisters. And then I talked to my sister and then we talk about my dad. And then that sister would talk to the other sister. And then it just went round and round and round and rounds. And we all know the telephone game too, right? So like every time somebody else would tell a story that they heard or gossip, it would get a little bit embellished and a little bit changed. And it was such heavy negative energy that was being filtrated through my entire family, like back and forth. And it wasn't serving us. We were becoming really resentful of one another. We were becoming mistrustful of one another. And it wasn't loving. It wasn't loving. It wasn't what I wanted my family to be. So I stopped participating. And I might say to the person who was sharing something, that might be something you want to talk to the person you're talking about. And I had to really, really own where I was initiating the conversation and why. Why? What was I looking for? Any of you who are part of maybe a bigger family, I I realized that as a grown adult, I was still seeking my parents' approval. I was still waiting for them to say, "You're the best, Jen. Yes, we love you more than your siblings. You're right. You're better than them." Like when I got really humble and honest with myself, I was seeking validation as a grown adult from my parents. I wanted them to say that I was better than my siblings. That's ridiculous. And I had a lot of work to do on validating myself because I'm already validated and going to God with my inherent needs for all of that. So I'm sharing that with you humbly for encouragement. Our family dynamics are so much better today. They feel safer. They feel more authentic. They feel so much more loving, more peaceful. We don't have the drama. We used to fuel ourselves on drama, and it wasn't, again, healthy at all for our dynamic. So, as we wrap up, I just want to remind you that gossiping, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I've got some areas where I really need to clean up. It doesn't make you a bad person. Like, we're not bad people because we do it. It makes us human. But when we become aware of what it's really feeding, which is the ego, not the spirit, we get to make a different choice. Every single time that we feel a pull to talk about someone else, we can pause and ask, why is this triggering me? What part of me wants to be seen or heard or validated? That right there is where healing begins. Not in the story about them, but it's in the truth that's rising up within us. Isn't that what we're doing? Like, aren't we here to grow and evolve? So let's collectively together be women who are speaking life, who choose to speak life into ourselves, into this world. Let's be women who guard our words and who let our conversations be extensions of the divine light. Like that is how we're going to change this world. That's how we're going to change the frequency. A couple episodes ago, or about a month ago, I did a whole podcast episode on the frequency war that we're in. And I know there's a lot of people looking around at the world we're in today and they're in fear. And I mean, there's a lot going on that is scary. It's dark. But what can we do? What can we do to contribute more light into the darkness? We know that ultimately light will always win over darkness, but we have to participate in that battle. So we can shift these little things that are actually really big things within ourself. And as a result, more light is going to get put out into this world. That's what I'm here for. That's what I want. More than anything else, I want to be someone that radiates more and more light. So I'm always taking a look at the areas inside of me that are blocking that light. And they're for me to surrender. They're not for God to become more. God is all. It's for me to get out of God's way. So my gossip, yeah, that's an area that can be cleaned up. So, if this episode spoke to you, will you please share it with a friend? Someone you know who's ready to live with more peace, with more integrity, with more freedom, with more light. And don't forget to grab your Calm and Receive micro retreat. The link is in the bio here because it's a perfect companion for these moments of reflection. It's going to help you ground your energy and open up more to the flow of the divine grace that is for you, that you get to come from. So until next time, my friends, keep surrendering, keep softening, and remember, true healing begins when we stop feeding the darkness and we start walking in the light. Thank you for joining me on the Daily Surrender. If today's episode spoke to you, I'd love to hear your reflections. Send me a message, share this with a friend, or leave a review. Remember, true healing and freedom come when we let go, surrender, and trust that God's way is so much better than our way. Until next time, my friends, keep surrendering, keep rising, and keep walking in peace.